Blair Imani, and I'm interviewing Antoinette for Equality for Her. Thank you so much. And so this is a part of our FemmeFounders series, and I wanted to talk to you about the name project. So let's get to know a little bit about you first. Where are you from? Tell me about your background.
Yeah, so I'm from Los Angeles, and I grew up with a pretty normal childhood. I was raised by a single parent, so I had a sort of very independent upbringing. I had to learn things very quickly for myself because I had to do them for myself very quickly. But aside from that, my childhood was just sort of normal. I had great family members who were a great support to me. Didn't really grow up artistic. It was something that I had to sort of explore for myself much later in my life. However, I was just a very lively, upbeat, hyper kid.
Sounds like me too. I think we're all very hyper growing up.
I kind of still am.
Let's start talking about the name project. I first heard about the name project, I think we were doing a photo shoot and you had brought it up. Tell me about the whole thing, how it collaborates with the Smithsonian Institution. Go ahead.
So the name project is under the umbrella of my blog, Don't Throw Away the Crust. Don't Throw Away the Crust originated in October of 2013 when I moved from DC to Brazil. And that's when I started blogging and shooting documentary style photography and writing. So that was the blog, looking at or focusing on or highlighting the culture of marginalized communities of the world because I felt that their cultures were really the best part. And so I had a conversation one day with someone about her name and kind of had already had some experiences with my own name, of course, with not liking my name, as so many people have experience with their own names. And so after having this conversation with a colleague, I realized that not only did I have a name story, but that everyone had a name story. And I was suddenly interested to know what everyone's name stories were. Thereafter, collecting the interviews and interviewing people, I started to realize that this was a lot bigger than names. These larger universal themes were really starting to present themselves, such as character or identity, the role that our names directly or indirectly or inadvertently showed up in our lives, in our character, in our attitude, in the line of work that we do. And so it became a huge conversation piece for everyone because here you have one thing that everyone has, a name. So it's been fun.
Can we hear a little bit about your name story?
Sure. I was named Antoinette for the same reason that the name exists. It's the female version of the name Anthony. And so my father's name is Anthony, which is why my mother named me Antoinette. Growing up, I never liked the name. I guess, I'm an 80s baby. So there were a lot of Ambers and Keishas and Ishas, and there was a certain blackness attached to that name that I felt I lacked with a French name, Antoinette.
I can sympathize.
And so there was definitely that disconnect in terms of, blackness that I so desperately wanted to have. So just the name itself I didn't like. Becoming an adult and looking back in retrospect, I also think a part of not liking my name, besides, not being a popular name at that time, was also the fact that I was named after my father, whom I did not have a relationship with. I think if, I was like a daddy's girl, I'd be like, I love my name. I was named, because of my father. So I think that also played a role and had something to do with it as well.
And how do you feel about your name now? Have you come to terms with it? Have you embraced your name?
I have totally embraced my name. I mean, stepping into the role of being a committed artist, whatever your craft is, I realized, you kind of have to be whole as a person. And so I decided one day, just internally, I'm going to accept this name.
What's an interesting name story that you've encountered on your journey with the name project?
There are so many. One that sticks out in my mind in particular is, well, there are so many. So many, I have favorites. I really enjoyed the place Geronimo was coming from. Geronimo is a friend of mine that I've made here in DC. He is a transgender male, transitioning over into that role, and you know, as a part of that process, arrived at this place where now it was time for him to choose a name that was more gender appropriate now for him. So, you know, name being an indicator of gender is interesting, and choosing your own name is very interesting. I think we give our parents a lot of crap. How come you named me this? And it's really quite difficult.
It's a conversation my mom and I have when we get on the phone nearly every day.
But it's difficult, right? Because you, in a sense, bestow upon someone this sort of destiny or aspirations that you may have for that person. And so it's interesting when you arrive at a place as an artist maybe, or as a transgender person where you are you know, choosing a name for yourself. What's the destiny that you want to choose for yourself? Or what are the aspirations that you have for yourself? And then I don't know, it becomes quite difficult. And so Geronimo, you know, sharing that he chose the name Geronimo specifically because of what it represented. That it represented strength and it represented courage in a time that was going to be very difficult for him. I thought was
he was like equipping himself with like a name that would give him like an extra maybe armor or something to like draw upon.
Because your name and your identity is so connected. But because it's something that we're born into this world with and don't think much about and just take for granted, we sort of undermine the power that it holds.
So yeah, we're gonna put the links and everything in the bottom.
Awesome.
Just thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. This is amazing what you're doing.